Hello, adventurers! Kador here again. I thought I'd continue some more of the B-Lux stuff while actual scripted episodes are on hold. So, last week I had the opportunity to see a movie called The Family, and I thought I'd come with warnings if you hadn't caught any sort of warning for it yet. The Family is kind of stars Robert De Niro and a few other people who I don't remember the names of. And the way the movie acted, they're not all that relevant. They all have subplots, but the subplots don't really affect the main story. And the main story is disjointed. There's cause and effect there, but a lot of the causes are just to get to the effect to happen, and it doesn't really make sense. Basically, the premise is a few years before the storyline started, Robert De Niro decided to sell out his kind of mafia family to help his actual family, wife, son, daughter. And he was placed in witness protection. But something keeps happening at each location. Either De Niro gets into it with someone there, or the mafia who's looking to kill him for selling them out kind of starts getting close and they have to move. And this one is kind of their last location. It's a French city and I don't remember the name of it. Basically they moved from Paris to this kind of slightly smaller, more contained city to a degree. I assume it's more contained because they only show like parts of it, so you imagine it's not that big. But of course, because the family is kind of mafia touched, it's natural that they're going to get into some hijinks. And that's part of the movie's problem. It's trying to take basically the basic premise for your average kind of wacky, eccentric family movie about moving to a new place and getting along, and combining it with elements of like mobster or mafia movies, and they don't really mesh all that well. Mainly because it's rare that they actually let them overlap. And a few times they do overlap, it's just to kind of push the storyline forward instead of actually having impact or significance or shaping the characters in some way. And of course there's a problem with the family itself. As I mentioned, they kind of focus on all of them a little bit, but the main focus is really on De Niro, because his is the only one that really has much of an impact on the storyline, but still not all that much. And a lot of the characters do like complete 180s on their personality, like halfway through. And the ones that get hit by it the most are the mom and the daughter, which probably makes it extra bad. And I actually really like the daughter's character at first, because she starts off as this kind of tough as nails, doesn't take much crap. A group of boys offer to give her a ride when she gets kind of lost in the city trying to get home, or they tell her she's lost and she chooses to believe them because she doesn't know the area. They end up driving her out to the park where they basically don't want to take her back until she hangs out for a bit, and presuming that they have terrible, terrible intentions. She grabs a tennis racket from the back of their car and beats the crap out of the leader, which is satisfying. And that was actually in the trailer, and I thought that the movie was going to be more of that, but it was basically enough to keep you interested, but not enough for it to be the kind of satisfying, violent movie that you may be expecting from the trailer. And then later on, she has her pink pencil case stolen, and she beats up the girl to get it back. And then halfway through, she falls for this kind of young substitute teacher. Basically, he's still in college or just out of college trying to get certification. I'm not sure how it works in France, and they didn't explain it all that well. And so she decides to get tutoring with him on math because he likes math, and that's about the extent of his character for the most part. She gets tutoring with math, and he passes his certification towards the end of the movie and is going to move to Paris to look for a teaching job. And so before he leaves, she decides to sleep with him to kind of, in her mind, consummate their relationship. And he goes along with it because he's fairly young and I imagine a tad on the stupid side, and she's kind of 18-ish, if I remember correctly. But for him, it's not a significant event, and so he decides to move to Paris, but he's not taking her with him. And while he does technically let her down gently, you get this implication that he just sees her as a kid, or however you want to interpret it. It left a very sour taste in my mouth. And instead of confronting him or finding the proverbial tennis racket and at least telling him not to treat girls that way, she's ready to plunge herself off the nearest rooftop for her love. And she keeps saying that we'll be together, but she's only killing herself and he's not dead. So either way, this plan seems ill-advised. Also very cliche, and like I said, a complete 180. She goes from being this tough-as-nails girl that's ready to take on those who wronged her to, I'm going to throw myself off the rooftops for love. And the only thing that stops her is the fact that the mobsters are running through the town due to something her brother did, and I'll get to that in a minute. And so she decides to go back and help her family. And then we get more anticlimax to her character arc, because she's the first one to grab a gun to fight back the mobsters, but she fires off like a couple of shots, and then she's cowering behind a brick wall as bullets are firing around her, not making an attempt to move and get a better shot or anything. And there's not really anything that foreshadows that she's gonna fold under pressure like that. There's no like events, and she doesn't show that like tough as nails thing that made me curious about what they were gonna do with the character. And of course, the mom suffers a similar fate, though not as bad. Basically, her kind of like establishing moment, I guess you could call it, is when she overhears some of the French citizens insulting her in French after she asks if they sell peanut butter at the store. And so she grabs a bottle of lighter fluid, a match, and a propane tank, and throws a propane tank in and squirts it all around and sets it on fire and checks out and gets out of the building right as it goes and blows up. And it's like, yeah, that's awesome. And then she proceeds to spend the rest of the movie acting like kind of the typical motherly housewife. She gives the daughter advice when the daughter gets a crush. She's concerned that her family's kind of sinful nature is going to condemn them to hell, and regularly visits a church on her own to ask God to forgive them, saying that they're not bad, they just do bad things. And she even bakes homemade Italian food to take over to the FBI agents, or witness protection agents, I'm not sure if it's the FBI, that are supposed to watch over them and kind of intervene if the mobsters show up, and make sure DeNiro doesn't do anything to get them caught. And very nice, genuine person, and it kind of clashes with the fire bombing of the store at the beginning, which isn't necessarily bad. I actually enjoy her character. Like, the fire bombing is satisfying, but you could have had any character do that, and it would have been just as satisfying, because it's more of a karma thing. They were acting kind of like asses to a foreigner in their land when they thought the foreigner couldn't understand. And so it's satisfying in that way, but from a story perspective, you could have cut it and nothing would have been missed. It was just good for the trailers. And then so towards the end, as she gets kind of cornered, basically the FBI people guarding her get gunned down by the mobsters, and she kind of crawls away and hides, not showing that same kind of fire that led her to firebomb the store. And that scene, like I said, it would have worked better if it wasn't there before, because it's just in your mind. You're like, where's the woman who firebombed that store? This is someone else. And it's not necessarily a bad character, it's just that one element kind of throws everything else off.